I eat an apple. My mouth starts to break down some of the simple sugars in the apple because your saliva has amylase enzymes right in it. Breaks it down right away. But it continues to get broken down in your stomach. And essentially, the sugars are extracted from the apple and delivered through your bloodstream to your cells, like your muscle cells. The fiber of the apple ends up coming out the same place my tapeworm comes out. You just poop out the fiber. So the sugars, the fructose, has gotten delivered to my cells. My cells are going to also have oxygen delivered to them through the bloodstream because when I inhale, my lungs gather the oxygen, my blood supply picks up the oxygen and delivers it to the cells. So the cells receive the fructose or the sucrose or the glucose or whatever simple sugar, the galactose, not sucrose, and also the oxygen, and your cells use the oxygen to break up the glucose. And when they're done, there's a waste product. Remember those formulas up above? When they're done, there's a waste product, carbon dioxide, which goes back into your blood vessels, circulates back up to your lungs, and is exhaled. So you inhale and exhale in your lungs. Cellular respiration is the oxygen and the carbon dioxide is actually taken in and liberated by your cells. It's at the cellular level. So it's cellular respiration. Because they're respiring, taking in oxygen, giving off carbon dioxide. So with oxygen, that's aerobic cellular respiration. So there's two types. There's aerobic, and I'm going to call it aerobic CR, and the other type is anaerobic. I always called it anaerobic cellular respiration. This textbook author doesn't like to do that. He calls it anaerobic fermentation. Now, your cells might have to respire somehow without oxygen. So they're not taking oxygen, but they still have to break up the glucose. So they can't break it up completely. They can only break it in half. They can't break every bond in the glucose. They can only break it in half. So you don't get as much energy from aerobic cellular respiration.
From which one?
You get enough to survive, anaerobic, you get enough to survive for a time, but it's not going to be a lot. So anaerobic fermentation, net yield is 2 ATP. It's an incomplete catabolism. I put incomplete, how do you like that? I'm like, okay, when can I retire? Because I think my brain is not going to last much longer. Incomplete. I like it. So this is an incomplete catabolism of glucose. They always use glucose for these examples because most of what you eat, you're going to break down to glucose. Remember your brain and your nervous system? That's all it wants. So even if you eat a strictly protein diet, some of it's going to get broken down and turned into sugars somewhere along the line. It's all going to have to go through the Krebs cycle. But your brain only wants glucose, doesn't want anything else, your brain cells and nervous cells. So that's an incomplete metabolism of glucose. Aerobic cellular respiration, you're going to get, for bacteria, 38 ATP. For humans, 36 ATP. Right? Is that right, 36?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a complete catabolism of glucose. Why do we get only 36 as humans? How come bacteria get to keep all 38?
Is there something to do with the pathway? Because like those 2 ATP come like at the end?
Well, it has to do with where the pathway happens. So in bacteria, the whole metabolic pathway, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, happens in the plasma, in the cytoplasm. For animal cells, glycolysis will happen in the cytoplasm of the cell, but all the ingredients that you need for a Krebs cycle must enter the mitochondria, because that's where ATP is made. And it costs a toll. You have to pay 2 ATP to get your stuff in the Krebs cycle to finish your metabolism. Bacteria don't have mitochondria, they don't have to pay the toll. Again, it's all theoretical. What's really going on, we think we know, we might not know. Okay. Oh my goodness. So whenever it gets into all that lengthy nonsense, you can tell it from the book. Okay, catabolic pathways, you can read this yourself. They release energy. Anabolic pathways, we gather energy. So let's do anabolic pathways over here. So for anabolic pathways, we're going to build something. One thing we could build is DNA. Why would I want to build DNA? No reason.
Then we have to bring that up. Well, we need the DNA, right?
Why would I want to replicate my DNA? I want to replicate. I want to make more cells. I want to make a baby. I have to replicate DNA before cells can be replicated. If I want to make another cell, it's got to have DNA. So I got to copy the DNA for the new cell, right? So DNA replication is for cellular replication. Remember we talked about somatic cells of your body, like your skin cells? They have to replicate by mitosis, but your sex cells, making eggs and sperm, you have to replicate those by meiosis. But you have to replicate the DNA. You wouldn't want your baby to be born without any DNA, would you? It'd just be a lump of fat or something, you know? That's happened. Here's a weird story. So, for years, in the science department in Bradenton, we had a secretary named Sharon. Sweetest lady, older lady, getting ready to retire. Has to go to the doctor for something. I don't know what. They do a scan, they find out she has a twin still in her 65-year-old body. She's like, I knew it. All those years I knew it when my son was born, that something wasn't right, something was strange, and the kiddo like missed his twin. It was still in her body for all those years. It's like, that can't be true. It was true. And it's not a fully developed baby. It started to develop and then it stopped at a certain point. Well, the one kid developed and was born. The other thing never got differentiated enough. It was just kind of like a benign tumor in her body. But when they analyzed it, it actually was an unborn, undeveloped fetus. Strange. And then sometimes on the news you'll hear, so-and-so delivered a 25-pound fat, thing of fat with teeth. You know, like something like, not enough DNA in those cells. See what I mean? Okay, and the other thing we're going to talk about anabolic reactions is protein synthesis. Why would I want to synthesize proteins? Because I'm growing bigger, because I have to maintain, I have to repair. Maybe I want to replicate and I need to make enough proteins for the new cells, right? So protein synthesis is for running your metabolic reactions, maintenance of your tissues, or for growth, or for replication. Because you have to grow to replicate, right? You know how it is when you become pregnant at first, like you might not notice, but after a while they're getting bigger. They're making new proteins because they're growing enough for the other baby to come. Okay, I usually make this a test question. The energy that you get from catabolism is used to run anabolism. So when you break down your food, you get energy, you package it as ATP. Then you use the ATP to power your anabolic reactions. If you want to build something, you're going to have to put some energy in. Did you ever build anything? A tree house, a dog house, a house? Did you ever build anything? It takes energy. It's work. You have to put energy into it. And where do you get the energy from? Well, hopefully you ate a good meal. So you have energy from your food that you can
So
go into.
energy catabolism is used for metabolism.
Anabolism.
Anabolism.
That's what metabolism is. It's energy exchange. You ever see those things where it's like the back of a clock and you got one wheel turns the next wheel, which turns the next wheel? That's what's happening in metabolism. So here's your catabolic reaction. And here's your anabolic. Catabolic reactions release energy. That energy goes in to run your anabolic reactions. And then, how's that going to work? Your anabolic reactions, you have a substance, you can break it back down. Anyway, catabolic releases energy, anabolic takes energy, needs energy input. Whatever. I thought I could make a nice cycle, but my brain's not working that way today. It's a cycle. Alright. Here comes your chemistry stuff, right? Precursor metabolites, right? Building macromolecules.